In the halls of knowledge, a journey begun.
Hello. We're living through the most remarkable period of human history. We all sense this. We all know it. Artificial intelligence, economic transformation, changing institutions, new technologies, new forms of power, and perhaps most importantly, new questions about what it means to be human. But beneath many of the changes occurring around us lies something we don't always recognize: a change in mental architecture. The assumptions that helped us understand yesterday's world may not be sufficient for the world now emerging. And that is why the Architecture of Being Institute has created the Sovereign Mind series. The Sovereign Mind series is part of the Institute's ongoing architectural analysis. But these investigations have a particular purpose. They explore paradigm shifts, mental models, inherent assumptions, emerging possibilities, and the changing architectures through which we understand ourselves and the world around us. Some of the questions we may explore may be unconventional. Some may challenge familiar narratives. Some may have no final answer at all. That's intentional, because the purpose of this series is not to tell you what to think. It is to create a place where we can examine how we think. Where did our assumptions come from? What structures are hidden beneath them? Are those structures still serving us? And what becomes visible when we are willing to look at the same question differently? The Sovereign Mind series is built upon 4 principles: freedom of inquiry, discipline of method, transparency of process, sovereignty of conclusion. That last principle is important. You don't have to agree with our conclusions. In fact, agreement isn't the objective. We want to examine the architecture together. You remain sovereign in determining what the inquiry means to you. Our first investigation begins with perhaps the most disruptive technology of our time: artificial intelligence. Much of the public conversation surrounding AI begins with fear. Will AI take our job? Will machines replace human beings? Will people become economically irrelevant? But what if we're asking the wrong question? The first Sovereign Mind investigation proposes a deliberately provocative idea. AI does not replace humans. It replaces the old architecture. Listen to this. AI does not replace humans. It replaces the old architectures. Or more precisely, AI is beginning to automate many of the functions around which our existing institutions were constructed? Administration, information processing, gatekeeping, repetitive cognitive work, institutional coordination. And that creates an extraordinary choice point. We can use AI to automate the systems we already have, including their bureaucracy, surveillance, concentration, and control. Or we can ask whether this new capability allows us to begin constructing something different, something that places human sovereignty at the center. That is the inquiry of our first paper. Our second investigation moves from the human relationships with AI into the economic architecture surrounding us. It is called the sovereignty economy, and one of my favorite topics because of the possibility it holds for humanity. For generations, much of the economic world has moved between two powerful architectures: global financial imperialism and national industrial sovereignty. Rather than simply choosing one side, we place both systems within the Lamar synthesis field. We examine their strengths, their limitations, their underlying assumptions, and then we ask, what wants to emerge next? The resulting proposition is neither globalism nor nationalism. We call it sovereign interdependence, an economic architecture in which sovereignty, coherence, and regeneration become governing principles. Again, not doctrine, an inquiry, a proposition, an architecture to examine. And this is only the beginning. The Sovereign Mind series opens a much larger field of investigation. What happens to work when intelligence becomes abundant? What happens to education when information is instantly available? What happens to authority when individuals gain capacities and capabilities once available only to institutions? What happens to identity when occupation no longer defines human value? What happens to community in an increasingly technological world? What is intelligence? What is sovereignty? What is meaningful human contribution? And perhaps the largest question of all, what kind of human being is required for the world now emerging? These are the questions we want to explore. Not from fear, not from ideology, and not with predetermined answers, but through disciplined inquiry. Human plus AI. There is another unusual aspect of this work that we want to make completely transparent. Artificial intelligence participates in the development of these investigations. We use AI for research exploration, pattern recognition, comparative analysis, structural organization, and synthesis. But AI does not determine what we believe. It does not possess final authority over the work. The originating questions, human meaning, discernment, ethical responsibility, and final conclusions remain human responsibilities. Our principle is simple. Human authorship remains responsible for the meaning. AI contributes to the synthesis. Human sovereignty remains the governing boundary. Rather than hiding this collaboration, we intend to explore it openly, because the relationship between humans and artificial intelligence is itself one of the great inquiries of our time. The Sovereign Mind series is therefore an invitation to question, to examine, to challenge assumptions, to explore unfamiliar possibilities, and occasionally to change our minds, because sovereignty does not mean having all the answers. It means retaining the capability and capacity to inquire, discern, and choose for ourselves. Welcome to the Sovereign Mind series. Architecture of Being Institute, Architectural Analysis, Freedom of Inquiry, Discipline of Method, Transparency of Process, Sovereignty of Conclusion. The inquiry begins here.
In the halls of knowledge, a journey begun, a quest for wisdom beneath the shining sun. With every lesson, with every new discovery, spark ignited, a burning curiosity. Through the ages, the torch has been passed, from teacher to student and eternal cast. From dusty textbooks to screens glowing bright, education's legacy, a beacon of light. Illuminate the world with the knowledge we've sown. Let the seeds of wisdom forever be known. From classrooms to libraries, the light shall endure. Education's legacy, forever pure.